I was thinking about making this a week of MMC figures, but then I realized that would mean I'd be using the big Lightbox 2 videos in a row, and I swear breaking that thing out always takes like a year and a half off my life every time, so I'm not doing that. Instead, I'm going to cover this Bumblebee Arcee that Dr. Lockdown just so rapturously praised. So let's see if it can appease both the most discerning reviewers on this whole site. I'm sorry, I said discerning? I meant pessimistic. Anyways, I keep forgetting this part. But I'm trying to hit 9K subscribers by the channel's 2nd birthday on August 8th. So if you enjoyed this video by the end, please consider subscribing. Your likes. Gimme. And please share this video if you can. It's Bumblebee Arcee, or should I just call this Bumblecee? Why is it so easy to bastardize the names of the various Arcees? So unlike Dr. Lockdown, I absolutely loved the Arcee design from the Bumblebee movie. It's easily my second favorite redesign of the whole film behind Optimus Prime. I like it a little better when it's not on super high def screen so we can see her face is made up of multiple chunks. I much prefer the liquid metal face it looks like she has when you apply just a little bit of motion blur to it. I don't know why the filmmakers tend to treat the liquid metal faces like some kind of sin. Just give us the smooth faces, they look better. Anyways, this figure here is doing a pretty decent job of capturing her on-screen appearance, though it is missing qualities from that thing that I really liked. Like just how aggressive her arms looked. In pure pink, they lack the balls they had in the actual movie. That's not saying it's bad, it just lost a trait I liked a little more in the film. I also really miss the metal-colored palms and joints. Those really gave her hands a cool touch. Though to be fair, I mean, where would the paint go? Because these hands basically don't exist. Why does she have the fillet of fists? These don't need to fit anywhere, they could have been twice this size and it would have changed nothing except making the figure better. But for the most part, what's here is pretty much as faithful as they could get it, and for once, Arcee doesn't feel insubstantial. I love how people love to make jokes that Arcee is thick, and yet all of her figures always end up as spindly little messes with limbs so thin you worry about snapping them. But this particular girl has meat on her bones, and a waist out of a fetish artist's wildest dreams. I joke, but I'm happy to report that I don't even feel a hint of horny coming off this thing. All too often, female Transformers get far too creepy. Like, why do 100% of them have a little split in the armor at the crotch? That detail makes me feel unclean. Make them stop! They are fucking made of metal, dude. Why? Why are designers like this? This one, no slot present. Now you may say, obviously not, this is a toy made for kids. But then I have to ask, why does Siege Chromia have one? Optimus gets a bulge and all the girls get camel toe. I hate every word that I just said. I spent the last 200 words talking about the level of sexiness in toys, and it is only just now that I realize I've made a terrible mistake in the direction my life is headed. Accuracy good, non-horny good, let's move on to something else I can rant about so I can break this cycle. I hate her fucking feet. I hate these things. They let her stand just fine when you realize that this entire huge apparatus is actually meant to be a toe up, but these don't peg in anywhere, so this bitch constantly rolls her ankles. Why? Why not just have a hump in the plastic here so it pops down into place? I know it's her ankle rocker and all, but I've never run into a figure where it's this much of an issue. Arcee's backpack has changed shape a good bit. I mean, fair play to them, they had to make this an actual figure that worked, but you could see before that basically all there was to it was these two pieces kind of sandwiching together. And I almost wonder if it looks better like it is now. I mean, it's bulkier, but it's just not a weird misshapen V on her back. Man, I feel like I've just been wading through a ton of inane bullshit talking about this figure, with the only real criticism of any actual substance being that her feet are really annoying. So let me just say that it looks good. It's not like super heavy, but there's a respectable denseness to the feel of it. The Siege Chromia is probably heavier, but this feels better. All the joints are nice and tight, except for the feet, which could use a little more grip. The backpack is smaller than a lot of dude bots, and while there's not a ton of paint, this looks great without it. I really hope that auto badge was done in relief, because that would be pretty cool. I will say that her torso likes to come unpegged way too easily though, and that can get a little irritating. Face on this is pretty good. The problem with a lot of these movie heads is that they make the faces out of so much complex bullshit, and then they have to slap paint on top of it, so it becomes even more of an indistinct mess than it already was, and they were already bad enough before. So while Arcee did have a better head than usual, this still winds up looking less than ideal. And mine also has a paint mishap on her helmet. I find it funny how over the years and through the interpretations, this bit has transitioned further and further away from being a Princess Leia haircut in metal form. As a child, them ripping off that bit of Star Wars almost offended me as much as all of the horrifying innocence corrupting deaths. Now it doesn't bother me so much, but I can't say that I disagree with them subtly shifting it to a design that looks more like itself and only itself than the German hair buns. And only now do I realize while handling this figure that the head has an antenna built into it. Though it's only about half as long as it should be, and I think the idea in production was that it was retractable, you know, because they're robots, so they just have this kind of thing built in so it can hide away and not get caught on something and snap off. I know it doesn't, but with the way the movie's like really beady, terrifying eyes for whatever reason, these dead, lifeless coals in her head look to me like they're meant to light pipe. Anyways, robot mode looks really pretty great. For what it's trying to be, it's pretty much nailing it at a deluxe price point. I've got no major qualms with the way it looks. I think they could have upgraded it by making the face smoother, but that wouldn't be the Studio Series MO. As for accessories, she comes with 2 guns when she only had 1 in the film. This is a lot less substantial looking than it seemed in the movie, but you gotta love how they're just massively scaled down versions of the rifles all the dudes came with. This was probably just a cost-cutting measure for the movie, but it does make the Autobots of Bumblebee feel like they got all their guns from the same manufacturer. Details like this are why gun hands are lame. This also comes with its backdrop. It's the same as all the other Bumblebee ones, so lazy. But for some reason, this one and the box it came in smells really weird. Like someone shot odd perfume in there and it was left to fester. Yet another reason why these windowless boxes are stupid. And yes, I know that people have been stealing the heads off the Silver Streaks like he's LeBron James, so even more reason not to do the vacant window thing. So accessories aren't great. I appreciate the fact that they gave us 2 guns, but at the same time they feel exceedingly low effort, and the backdrop at this point is no effort. There was almost only one single shot of the character in the whole movie, and they just couldn't be bothered to use the exact same amount of ink to print anything else. So yeah, even considering this figure should have only come with 1 gun and they aren't associated with anything else, this still feels pretty weak on the accessories. Posability, on the other hand, would be really good. Head has a ton more up and down than normal, shoulders pull like 1 degree more than a 90, though for some reason the left shoulder on mine is completely frozen in place when trying to move the arm forward. It will not go around and it will not come out. I don't know what's wrong, but that thing is absolutely snapping off before it moves anywhere. This is very likely just another QC problem with my figure and is probably not widespread. It does, however, give me some peace of mind to finally have figured out why the back of the alt mode on mine looks wrong when I transform it. Double jointed elbows for maximum bendage. But using the lower one is difficult because it has to jump past this little nub that really shouldn't be there. It honestly makes me question if these were actually intended to be double jointed because it makes it really feel like it's not. Narcissa wrists, you can fake it really hard to pretend that there's a back crunch. Hips kind of want to roll off to the side when going forward, but are otherwise completely unimpeded. Normal 90 knees, and ankles with a toe up and pivot. Plus little armatures for her kibble. So posability is pretty good. If mine's arm weren't fucked, she'd have more range than average in most joints and no bad ones. Though the elbows are real weird, and the way the ankles are gigantic is super weird. Anyways, this transformation is good, but I kinda hate it. I'm better with it now that I understand why the back end won't peg together, but I still have no explanation why the front won't peg together right. It just won't go. These stupid goddamn tires kind of squish together in the most unsatisfying way possible, and they will take every damn opportunity on the planet to come apart. And the way the ankles just kind of straighten out is not satisfying in the strangest way. A lot of this is decently clever and easy. Most of it is stuff I've seen before, but not in a combination like this. It's just these damn tolerances of mine where no part ever feels finished. Nothing snaps together, it all just squishes and it crushes your soul. The steps are all good, but none of it feels right. The Play-Doh factor would actually manage to feel better than what's ever going on here. Every step, no matter how clever, rings hollow because of how all the parts just mush together. If yours actually makes clicking sounds while going through this process, you are probably having a much better time doing this than me. And the end result is a space thing with tires that won't stay pegged together, and an entire back that looks really pretty structural. And an uneven distribution of parts because mine's arm is fucked. It's so minorly wrong and so goddamn ugly to my OCD brain because of it. This is enough of a thing for me to not hate it for not being something, but pretty much only just barely. I see we are doing the weird split tire thing off the Legacy skids again, and I feel like that was unnecessary. Like the bits holding these together could have just been the inner rings. It was only while writing this that I realized what these ugly cutouts are for, and it briefly gave me hope that it would fix the problems with the ankles. It does not. The back tires are funny to me for being these fake larger ones with these super tiny inset ones. Overall, it looks okay if you discount the physical problems with my specific copy. It has flaws that are just inherent to the sculptor design, like the back section, but that doesn't drag it down that far. It does look like a vehicle that someone could ride. I like it okay, but it just leaves me a little cold, and I worry that comes from the terrible QC that I got. And overall, I'm not sure how to feel. I mean, it's pretty clear that I got one with absolutely fucked QC, and I would hope and expect that this isn't common with this figure. Though I was able to see through the bad QC with the Legacy skids and really appreciate that figure nonetheless. But this one is probably the worst QC I've ever gotten. One arm completely unusable, I'm just lucky that it's mostly in the right location for transformation, feet won't hold position and won't peg together, pretty big whoopsie on the helmet, no part of it snapping together in the transformation. If these are all just my copy issues, then what we have is a figure that poses pretty well, looks very accurate, has more than you should probably expect in the way of accessories given the character's brief appearance, transforms with a relatively clever process, and has a decent alt mode. I personally will be taking mine back and getting a replacement copy because I figure this has to be rare. I expect that you will probably like it if you get it, but I can't actually be sure of that right now because my copy is so fucked up that it leaves me feeling hollow, and I have to try to appreciate it on a completely academic level. Academically, I think this is probably a good figure, but emotionally it lacks any oomph for me, at least this copy does. To be fair, this was going to be a more positive review till I transformed it again to write this video. I'll tell you when I get a new version and if it worked out better than the old one, so stay tuned. And that's not half what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know you know what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So, if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.